Warning, this video contains spoilers to a movie that came out almost 25 years ago. You've been warned. And now, enjoy the show. I was looking through my DVD collection for the movie The Sixth Sense recently. Turns out I don't have it anymore, so I'm on my way to a store called Bookman's to pick up a copy. Besides selling fantastic used books, they also sell a large plethora of decently priced DVDs. I accomplished my mission quickly with only a few distractions along the way. Remember the good old days when you'd watch a movie on DVD, and then after it was done, you'd explore all the extra behind-the-scenes goodies it had to offer? Well, that nostalgia was knocking at my door, and I had to answer. There's a special feature on the Sixth Sense DVD that takes me back to when I was a young, aspiring filmmaker, dreaming of making my own movies one day. This DVD and all the special features included on it made me feel like I could accomplish these dreams, and eventually I did. But before we get into that, it's worth looking at how M. Night Shyamalan made the surprise super hit of 1999. How did he get started? What made this movie such a phenomenon? And what was the special feature that I just had to watch again? Well, sit back, relax, grab a religious icon, and let's take a look at M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense. At first glance, you might think that M. Night's first film was The Sixth Sense. You'd be mistaken, as was I at first. His first film was a movie called Praying with Anger, which he wrote and directed in 1992. It's an independent film about a guy who goes to India to learn about his heritage. It also starred M. Night Shyamalan in the lead role. Okay, so his second movie was The Sixth Sense, right? Nope. His second movie was Wide Awake, starring Rosie O'Donnell. It's about a young boy who searches for the meaning of life and death after the passing of his grandfather. Alright, so now he must have finally gotten started on The Sixth Sense. Not so fast there, pal. Knight did write the script for The Sixth Sense back in 1996, and yes, it would be the next directorial movie of his that was bought by a studio. However, he was also one of the writers of the movie Stuart Little, which he also completed in 1996. That movie, strangely enough, came out in 1999 along with The Sixth Sense and was a sizable hit. On top of that, he also did an uncredited rewrite of the script She's All That. Talk about eclectic taste, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's travel to 1997. According to an article from The Hollywood Reporter, Shyamalan went to Los Angeles to pitch his spec script to a bunch of different studios. A spec script, for those who don't know, stands for a script that has been written without commission or any promise of getting made. Knight was now at the phase where he needed to put down some ground rules for his script in terms of how it would be sold. Rule 1. The bare minimum it could be sold for was $1 million. Rule 2. Knight would be attached to direct, no matter what. He knew that he had to decide the worth of the screenplay before he went into the lion's den of Hollywood, even though it could mean getting laughed all the way back to the LAX airport. He had a lot riding on this quest of his, especially since he was currently checked into the Four Seasons Hotel with his wife and newborn child, which I'm sure made him gulp just a little bit harder. Well, he didn't have to wait long for the bidding to begin. Before he knew it, Disney, through its now defunct Hollywood Pictures label, snatched the script up for $2.25 million with Knight attached to direct. The magic of Shyamalan begins, and for Disney, it was love at first sight. Except that it wasn't at all. You see, there was this guy named David Vogel, president of Buena Vista Motion Pictures, who read the script for The Sixth Sense and on the very same day, without permission from anyone at Disney, put out a bid that couldn't be refused. Well, Disney wasn't happy with this act of individuality and hubris. Eventually, David Vogel was let go from his position. Disney, not really seeing the value of the movie, sold production rights to Spyglass Entertainment. Wow, what visionaries they were, huh? Who would want to watch a stupid movie like The Sixth Sense? Nevertheless, it was finally time for Shyamalan to make his movie. The film had two very experienced producers on its team in Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall. Frank Marshall asked Knight who he saw as the perfect actor to play Malcolm Crowe. Knight responded that he wrote it for Bruce Willis, but he knew that was a pie-in-the-sky choice. Well, Marshall put his producer hat on and simply asked Willis if he would do the part. The worst he could say was no. Luckily, no wasn't quite an option for Bruce. You see, he owed Disney a movie. Or 3, actually. This was due to being responsible for closing down an entire film production called Broadway Brawler. Broadway Brawler was a movie that Bruce Willis had been producing and starring in. Pre-production on the film took 2 years, and they got through 20 days of shooting before everything fell apart for good. Most of that being attributed to Willis himself. Now, having to make amends for this, Bruce took a 3-movie contract with Disney that resulted in The Sixth Sense, The Kid, and Armageddon. It's amazing how a complete failure of a movie resulted in some of the biggest hits of his entire career. However, even though he was contractually obligated to make 3 films for Disney, it didn't mean that he was going through the motions for The Sixth Sense. He loved the script and knew it was special. He also gave a very vulnerable performance as Malcolm Crowe, a performance that helped audiences to see a different side of his acting. Now it was time to cast the pivotal character of Cole Sear. This was a role that Shyamalan thought was nearly impossible to cast, a role that required immense emotion and skill. In August of 1998, after hundreds of kids were auditioned, Haley Joel Osment came in and blew everyone away with his take on the character. Originally, Knight saw Cole as a darker, broodier little boy. When Haley came in, there was a cherub quality to him. It didn't hurt that Haley, in reference to the script, said, "I read it 3 times the night before coming in." Knight thought he meant that he read his part 3 times. However, Haley informed him that no, he read the entire script 3 times. This kid was more professional than most adult actors. On a random side note, Michael Cera actually auditioned for the part of Cole. In an interview with Esquire magazine, he said, "I auditioned for The Sixth Sense, which I didn't know was about seeing dead people. They didn't mention that in the breakdown. It was the scene with the penny. Bruce Willis is saying, 'I can't be your doctor anymore,' and Haley Joel Osment starts crying and slides the penny over to him. It's a very emotional scene. And I did not do it that way. I did it upbeat. I said, 'Some magic's real,' very optimistically." Rounding out the cast was the phenomenal Toni Collette as Lynn Sear, Cole's mom. Shyamalan had wanted her for the part based on her role in Muriel's Wedding. When she came in, her head was shaved for some reason, so she put a wig on for her audition. She blew it out of the park, of course, but Knight didn't want to risk the studio passing her up because of her shaved head. So luckily, he was able to cast her without them seeing her audition tape. By the way, her hair didn't grow in on time, so she wore a wig the whole movie as well. Mark Wahlberg's brother, Donnie Wahlberg, scored the part of Vincent Gray, the character whose actions rippled through the entire movie. He told Shyamalan that he would lose some weight for the role, which Knight was happy to hear, but when he thought Wahlberg would lose some weight, he figured it meant maybe 10 pounds, something like that. But no, he went ahead and dropped 43 pounds. Here's what he said about his preparation in an interview with USA Today. "I starved myself. I would fast for 2 days, then only eat steamed cabbage and drink beet juice. I would chew gum all day, and I would literally walk around the streets to burn thousands of calories. I didn't shower for weeks. I just wasn't taking care of myself, and I was a loner. That was as close as I could come to this guy. I definitely had to suffer in the only way I could." And it worked. Vincent is a chilling character. Originally, he was supposed to wear clothing in the opening scene, like a robe or pajamas or something, but Donnie made an impassioned request that he be nude instead. Knight was down with this, but eventually a compromise had to be made since the film was aiming for a PG-13 rating. No full Monty here. I think the dirty underwear look is actually more creepy in retrospect, like he hadn't changed it in 2 years or something. It's amazing the amount of work Donnie put into this role for what only amounted to about 5 minutes of screen time. I'm surprised this didn't make him a bigger star. I mean, he obviously has the chops. With production well underway, you might be interested to know that it really wasn't a chaotic experience. It seems that the filmmakers and actors truly believed in the story and were putting their best feet forward. The sets for Malcolm and his wife's apartment, as well as Cole's home, were all built and filmed at the Old Philadelphia Convention Center. It had huge empty marble hallways and stairways that would go very deep into the earth. In other words, it was super creepy, which led to a fitting atmosphere for the movie shoot. For all those icy cold ghost scenes, it didn't really require much acting. Shyamalan didn't have a lot of faith in the CGI of the time because it wasn't as seamless as it is today. So how did they achieve this effect? They chilled the set to below freezing. All the actors had to do was breathe. That's some good breathing right there. Shyamalan joined in on the fun of acting with a cameo role as the doctor who was concerned for Cole's safety. He shared the scene with Toni Collette. However, Knight was not a fan of his work in the scene, so he whittled it down to the bare minimum. I always get a kick out of the cameos he makes in his movies, and for what it's worth, he came off fine in the role. A lot has been said about Bruce Willis and his sometimes difficult persona on films, but he seemed to be in good spirits throughout the filming of The Sixth Sense, and he would even DJ parties that were held at night on the film. I was amused to find out that he was responsible for giving Shyamalan his first hangover. He kept handing Knight shot after shot of what he would call candy, as in, here comes some more candy there, Knight, baby, bozo. Sorry, I don't know, don't know what's with the accent, but the next morning, the director could barely get off his couch and wondered why he saw dead people. I don't know. The movie came out on August 6th, 1999, which also happened to be M. Night Shyamalan's birthday. Coincidence? Yeah, probably, but it does seem a little mystical though, don't you think? It debuted to a respectable $26 million on its opening weekend. However, the real magic was how each weekend after that, for the next 6 weeks, it kept grossing no less than $20 million each time. In fact, on the 6th weekend of its release, it scored $29 million. This meant that word of mouth was very strong. The film went on to gross a gigantic $672 million worldwide. All of this on a budget of $40 million. The movie was a phenomenon. Audiences would see it multiple times, especially after the revelation that Bruce Willis had been dead the whole time. It seemed like people were committed to keeping the twist ending a secret so as not to spoil it for uninitiated viewers. I wasn't that fortunate though. Thanks a lot, Andrew Fry. You and your big mouth. What were you thinking? Anyway, I saw the movie with my family, and since I'm a nice guy, I didn't spoil it for them. They were, of course, shocked. And you know what? Even though I knew the big twist going in, I got so engrossed with the rest of the film that it was just as shocking to me when the big reveal arrived. That just shows what a good movie it really is. That twist was once in a lifetime. The DVD was released on March 28th, 2000, and my family bought it not too long after that. Ah, the good old days of DVDs. The first DVD released in the US was Twister, which was also the first DVD we bought for our collection back then. Most of the time though, we'd go to Blockbuster to rent movies we weren't going to buy. Actually, there was this one place we used to go to a lot called That's Rentertainment. It was a hole-in-the-wall video store that rented out Laserdiscs, VHS tapes, and DVDs. And it was always a treat to visit. I loved the atmosphere. Hard to believe those places are all gone now, but that's how the winds of time blow, I guess. So here I am, holding the DVD in my hands, and it brings back strong memories. It gives me the feely feels in my heart. I was ravenous for the special features on DVD menus. It created a whole other experience apart from the film itself, and I miss it dearly. I really miss it dearly. I would wager a bet that filmmakers, myself included, learned a lot about filmmaking from those special feature menus. Those sacred home video sections that no longer exist. This DVD was one that I remember combing every nook and cranny of when I was younger. The special features included things like a storyboard to film comparison, interviews and behind-the-scenes footage with the cast, a music and sound design video with composer James Newton Howard, some deleted scenes, and a bunch more. And it's all fantastic. But the one that stuck with me the most throughout all these years wasn't even mentioned as a special feature on the back of the DVD box. But it's there. Oh yeah, it is. On the last menu page of the special features, you click on the dead girl's secret box and it opens up to reveal M. Night's first horror film. This blew my mind. Knight introduces the video and you can tell it's special to him, but also embarrassing. He's made dozens and dozens of movies in his childhood, and here we get an intimate look at one of them. His movie was called Nightmare on Old Gulf, naturally, because he grew up on Old Gulf Road in Philadelphia. It features a very young M. Night Shyamalan with a buddy of his in a scene where they've stumbled upon the secret journal of a ghost. I love how down home it looks. And this shot where the door opens with a floating hat behind it, then the journal starts floating, and of course this part where his friend is prominently controlling the ghost in frame. There's just so much glee in this. I love it. It takes me back to my childhood. I used to make movies like this all the time when I was growing up. I've got mountains of embarrassing footage from back then. I might be able to find some clips, and if I do, I'll show it on screen very briefly so as not to hurt your eyes. But yeah, I miss the day of the DVD, you know? I miss when studios used to put so much effort into these products. Now we have streaming and it's nice, it's convenient, but it's missing that magic, you know? It's missing those special features. I think physical media is important. You know, what are you gonna do when the internet goes out? Well, I'll tell you what you do. You pull out one of these babies, you pop it in the DVD player, and you're gonna experience a night in of magic. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm Scotty Dunn, and if you hate Tommy Thomasimo as much as Cole does, then throw a shoe at the like and subscribe buttons. Also, if you pop the notification bell, you'll know when a new video comes out. See you next time.